First off, I want to bring y'all's attention to this kid. Zealous Hicks, for borderline 5-star, I would say. Safety out of Carrollton, Georgia. You might have heard of the school. It's because it's the same school that Julian Lewis goes to. That's kind of why it's popular. They're also home to several other top 247 prospects. I think there's maybe 4 or 5 kids at Carrollton that hold offers from Texas, but I don't know. I mean, those Texas offering all those kids is the same type of vibe as Ole Miss coming down to DeSoto and offering 8 kids in one day, if you get what I'm saying. They don't actually recruit all those kids. That's just how these things work. You got to do some favors sometimes. But they are actually recruiting this kid. And this kid, getting text in the middle of the show.
Hey, while you deal with that, Jordan, a couple things. Our Travis Johnson said, I think with Silas Bolden on punt return, he's one forced play away from a touchdown or a disaster. Yeah, it's real similar to Xavier Worthy in that everybody's sphincter should be a little bit puckered when Silas Bolden is back there, because he's fearless, which is what you need in a punt returner, which can work for you, can work against you. And then Rex St. Charles, I love your contributions. We out of respect for my man Rod Babers, we cannot, not that I won't allow it or tolerate it, we cannot slander Matt Nordgren. We cannot slander the good name of Nordco on this show. So yeah, Matt Nordgren had the best play, Jordan, I think, in that whole 05 season when Texas went to Waco and beat Baylor 62-0. And Matt Nordgren, who never got to play, very rarely got to play as the backup to Vince Young, is running in for a touchdown, fumbles the ball. It was like one of those scenes from The Waterboy. It's like, oh, he fumbles the ball, but he has enough time to pick it up before any of our guys realize what's going on, and he scores. So yeah, Rex typed it in just as I was describing it. So there you go, Jordan. Continue with Zealous Hicks, but shout out to Matt Nordgren. Wherever CB said he was in Ann Arbor, so of course Nordco was in Ann Arbor. So. Yeah,
no, Bink sang, is that a helmet from the Leatherheads movie set? Did Clooney sign it? No, it's a 7-on-7 helmet. I actually saw him play 7-on-7 this spring. But no, Texas offered him earlier this spring. They got him on campus. He was in Texas for 7-on-7 tournaments in Dallas in April. One of those weekends, he drove down to Texas, drove down to Austin, had a great time on official visits, spent the whole day at campus. And then he returned. He was either at the elite camp or the pool party in July. It was one of those two. I think it was the elite camp. But he was there in the summer and has a lot of interest in Texas. And Clemson, Georgia, Alabama, Auburn, Florida State, Miami, everyone in that region is involved with him. And I remember after the Under Armour Atlanta camp, there wasn't a kid I saw talk to more reporters than him. Like, a lot of schools really have this kid high on the board and really value him, and you can't say the same about every single top 100 prospect, at least this early at this stage. And you might be wondering, like, but he's only a 2026. This says 2026. He's probably not going to finish in 2026, though, as there is a lot of rumors and buzz to him reclassifying to 2025, right? That being said, with the commitment coming Thursday, I think there's a chance Texas might actually be the school that wins this one.
Hey, can I ask you a question? We don't see it hardly in Texas that I can think of. Is it just kids are maybe doing more of the self-paced thing where they've got enough college credits at this point taken, whether it's dual credit classes or just go to a community college and get some classes out of the way, whatever it is, that they can reclassify. They've got enough credits to reclassify. It seems like that's a bigger deal in the Southeast and in Florida than it is here.
Yeah. It's definitely easier to do in other states than in Texas. Like in California, I think you just have to prove you know what your first and last name are, and they're like, you're good or something. I really don't know how it works.
Jake Baylor brings up a point. Quinn Ewers did reclassify, but if I remember right, Jordan, I don't remember all the specifics, but that was it took him. He reclassified, but I think Ohio State had already started camp by the time he got there.
Yeah, Ohio State. Well, I should say it like this. Ryan Day is never going to get one of Riley Dodge's players because of how Ohio State did that whole thing. Like, they went behind South Lake Carroll's back, and South Lake Carroll didn't find out until like 10 minutes before it got announced to the world.
Yeah.
So that was the whole thing.
Oh, I remember that part of it.
Yeah, we can say that for another day. I actually have all the details for that story. We can say that for another day. Everyone talks about Quinn Ewers reclassifying. He was already held back, so he's just going to the grade he was supposed to be in the whole time.
Quinn, what grade Quinn get that red shirt? Like 5th grade?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But also, he's not originally from South Lake. He's originally from Pleasanton, Texas, outside San Antonio area. But anyways, Zealous Hicks.
Real quick, shout out to the great Will Wilkerson at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Will's a Pleasanton grad. So,
oh, interesting. I didn't know that. Okay.
Will's wife is definitely his better half. I'll say that.
Interesting comment. But with Zealous Hicks, I'm not saying Texas is going to win this one, but I do think they're going to finish in the top 3. The other 4 schools, there's kind of a top 5 right now. It's Florida. I really don't think he's reclassifying to go to Florida. If he is, I mean, I don't know.
He must have been a hardcore Gators fan if that's the case.
Yeah, but Florida, Auburn, Georgia, Clemson, and Texas. If I had a gun in my head and I had to pick right now, I would pick Auburn. But again, I do think Texas is either gonna win, gonna finish in 2nd, or gonna finish in 3rd. They're in this thing. He also has family. I believe it's his aunt is a judge in the DFW area or something like that. So he has family in the state of Texas, where it's not like he would just be coming down from Georgia by himself. So not ready to officially call this one yet. I should have more on this tomorrow. I don't believe he has a time for when he's committing on Thursday, but it should be sometime then. And not ready to call it one way or another, but Texas is definitely in this. But I want to talk about the reason I was 10 minutes late getting on this morning. I got a call from a source of mine, and it's a source of mine for the highest ranked player that Texas is still at. Well, highest ranked uncommitted player that Texas is still after. And that would be Michael Terry III, the nation's #1 athlete, 5-star prospect out of San Antonio, Alamo Heights. And as of now, originally, the only visits he had on deck as of yesterday, I mean, as of even 2 hours ago, was the Texas-Georgia game on October 19th. What's, the most highly anticipated game of the entire season, #1 versus 2. But a visit is in the works for this weekend. UTSA was the 2nd program to ever offer Michael Terry, behind Tashard Choice and Georgia Tech. Tashard Choice actually beat Will Stein to offering Michael Terry way back in the day. But anyways, he's going to see UTSA play Texas in Austin. The visit's in the works. Not 100% a done deal, but I'd be very surprised if it doesn't happen. I'm treating this like he's there. And it's technically breaking news because I haven't even reported this yet. So y'all got, I guess, breaking news on Texas Sports Unfiltered, and that's why I was late getting on this morning.
Would you like to go over to the flagship message board and leave that on there?
Oh, yeah. I'm throwing it on there after I get off the show because there's some more stuff.
Nice.
As far as Michael Terry goes, I've liked Texas since the official visit. That's when I put in my crystal ball prediction. And for a long time throughout the summer, it was Texas versus Oregon, with Nebraska kind of hanging out in 3rd. Now I think that's flipped. I think it's Texas versus Nebraska with Oregon in 3rd. He was at Nebraska this past weekend. He visited for the game versus Colorado. They obviously beat the snot out of them.
That mud hole Nebraska stomped in Colorado's ass and walked it dry.
Yeah. And hey, Matt Rule's got it cooking over there in Lincoln. So as someone who thinks college football is a better place when Nebraska is good at football, I've enjoyed seeing Nebraska and Matt Rule winning, especially because I'm such a big Matt Rule fan that we are on this show.
I forget there are 2 programs. You don't know what college football is like when Nebraska's really good and when Miami's really good.
Yeah.
You don't know what that's like. And
really USC, like outside of the Lincoln Riley years, I wasn't old enough during the Pete Carroll USC days, and they were ass outside of them in my lifetime. Like, at least I've seen Florida under Mullen be somewhat decent, or like Florida State under Norvell or Jimbo be decent, or even Auburn. Yeah. I've never seen Nebraska really moving during my lifetime. But But anyways, Nebraska, that was a great visit for him. He had always liked Nebraska, but was kind of wary of them just because he knew that everything they were telling him, they didn't have a product to show they'd actually done it yet. They were saying this is how it's going to be this year. So that's why this visit this past weekend in Nebraska was so important, because everything they were telling him they were going to do actually happened. And he got to see it with his own eyes. And it was his first time seeing a game day experience outside of their spring game, which is a much different type of vibe. So that being said, Nebraska, I think, is Texas' main competition. Now, he still doesn't have a decision date. He's telling folks he's thinking about December. I think he's kind of changing his mind on the decision date every day. I think he just doesn't really know what he quite wants to do yet. He will be an early enrollee, though, so he's going to have to figure that out by, I think, December 6th is the final day of the early signing window. I know December 4th is technically signing day. December 6th, the Friday, should be when the window closes, though. But he's going to be an early enrollee. He's going to have this figured out by the end of December at the latest. And, I mean, I still like Texas here. Yes, Nebraska, they did a lot of damage in this one. They were able to jump Oregon after this past weekend. The source I spoke to, they still believe that in Michael Terry's mind, Nebraska would be the biggest risk he could take of the three schools he could possibly commit to. Of Texas, Nebraska, and Oregon. And it's because say what you want about Oregon in their first 2 weeks. Oregon and Texas are legitimate national championship contenders. I think Nebraska is a CFP team, but I do not think they're a national championship contender yet. And I don't think that's crazy to say. That is getting factored into this decision. NIL money is not important.
I think other stuff. I think the other thing too, sorry, Jordan, I think it would depend on if you're looking at NFL development.
Yes,
Sark is getting that reputation, getting Texas back to that point where they're putting guys in the NFL now. At this point, you can't say, "Oh, guys are going to Texas; they're not getting better." No, they are getting better. We're seeing the results of that on draft weekend. Oregon's got a nice track record. Plus, Dan Lanning and Sark are both from the Saban tree, so I think they get that respect. But man, if you're talking about a guy that can just develop guys and get them ready for the league, I don't know if there's anybody better in the college game than Matt Rhule. I'm not saying Matt Rule's the best coach, but I'm saying a guy that could just develop football players from where they are when they come in to having them NFL ready when they get out. He did it at Temple. He did it at Baylor, and he's going to do it at Nebraska.
Yeah. So as far as Michael Terry goes, the rest of this thing, still without a decision date, but probably going to be early December. That's what he's telling folks the most as of late. Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of what makes the most sense if we continue on this trend here. So visits he is playing, the UTSA game's in the works. That should happen. I'd be surprised if it doesn't. The Georgia-Texas game has been on the books going back to when he took the official visit.
Yep.
He's going to be in Austin October 19th, and that will be the craziest visitor list I've ever seen in my life. The amount of top 247 kids that have already told us they're going to be there, man, ridiculous.
DKR will set an attendance record. It'll be 109 whatever. Dude, there's going to be like 300,000 people there that are going to say they were at that Georgia game.
Yeah. No, you're right. But with Michael Terry, Oregon is fighting really, really hard. They're very aggressive right now. And they're doing everything they can to get them to come up to campus.
Yeah.
And who does Oregon play the weekend before Texas plays Georgia? You want to guess?
Is that the Ohio State game for them?
They play Ohio State in Eugene on October 12th. So that's what Oregon's pushing for. They'd be happy any game he visits for, but that's the one they're definitely pushing for was that one. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets up to Eugene the week before Texas, Georgia. Texas, Georgia is the last game on the schedule that either of the schools in his recruitment are really pushing for. And a source I spoke to, it's been the same source on Michael Terry this whole time. They do think that if Texas was to beat Georgia in dominant enough fashion, that Michael Terry could just be like, okay, F this. If this is where I'm probably going, why don't I just commit now if this is my last visit?
Yeah.
They think that's a possibility. So now on the same wavelength, there were several recruits that were going to commit to Texas had Texas beat TCU in that 2022 game. And I know that is fact. Anthony Hill was one of them. He waited a few more weeks, but if TCU loses to Texas and DKR in 2022 on Lowe's Black Friday, I believe, Anthony Hill is a Texas Longhorn that night instead of waiting till a couple.
No, that wasn't
later.
Black Friday. That was a couple weeks. That was a couple weeks before.
Got it.
That was in November.
Can you tell who's sponsoring today's video? This video is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the best and easiest place to play fantasy sports. With daily and season-long contests, Underdog Fantasy gives you more ways to win than anyone else. Sign up today using promo code TSU to claim your special pick, plus a first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. It's Underdog Fantasy, the best way to fantasy.